You good? Ready?
Yep.
Welcome to the Timeout podcast, guys. I am your host, CJ, and I'm here with...
It's your boy, DC. You wait for more names? No,
Sick.
can I get more names this week?
No more names. Not your full title this week.
No,
So, what a week. Anything interesting happen, Davian? You think of anything interesting? I can't. I think it was a pretty boring week,
really.
actually.
Nah, nothing. I don't think anything really happened.
There was this little thing. I don't know
Really?
if you heard, but James Harden got traded.
Now you mention it. Yeah, that did happen, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Kyrie Irving still isn't playing. Games are being postponed everywhere.
Literally,
but we still had a week of basketball. Had a week of basketball. So how about let's get right into it. Let's go through the week. I've highlighted a few games, and then we'll pick who's good, who's bad, and then later on we actually have a guest, Mr. Daniel Raza, going to talk to us about NBA media coverage, basketball media coverage in general, and then lastly we are going to talk about that trade. We're going to talk about the Brooklyn Nets in general because they've been a very interesting team this week.
Yeah, as someone who, as you know, we look at basketball as fans, but as producing a podcast, you normally want something big to happen, and Brooklyn just decided to give us everything in 1 week, just like here's some content.
I have a scripted rant. So
yeah, guys,
but we'll get to that later.
Chris is prepped and prepared for this.
I'm prepped. Right.
Yeah,
let's go through this week. So on Sunday, we had a few interesting games. We had the LA Lakers beating the Houston Rockets 120-102. Now, this wasn't that game. Not that game. This was the game that LeBron scored 18, AD had 27, DeMarcus Cousins and Marcus Morris got into a shoving match, and DeMarcus ended up ejected. Not for the shoving match, though, just for a hard foul. Yeah. Brooklyn lost to OKC 129-116. It was KD's return. Kyrie was still out for personal reasons. Whatever spiritual journey he's on. KD had 36. Karis LeVert had 21. I think that would actually be his last game as a Brooklyn Net, I think. I don't know. But Thunder win behind Shea's 31, Al Horford's 22, and 25 for Diallo. Interesting. The LA Clippers beat the Chicago Bulls. Kawhi ended up scoring 10,000 career points. He scored 35. Levine had 45, though, but he ended up airballing the game-tying three. So... couldn't make it 48. And then the last game on Sunday, we had Golden State Warriors beating Toronto by 1 point, 106-105. Steph was 1 from 10 from 3. And Damian Lee, but I still think he ended up scoring 30 or something. Damian Lee hit the game winner. Dre had a near triple-double. He was only a 1 assist shy. There was that last possession that Dre was just shouting at every player was amazing. Defensively,
is that the game? Is that the one with the last? That's the Siakam spin move.
Yes, it was.
At the end,
Draymond. So, you could see him shouting the play.
Yeah, I watched a breakdown on that because after our podcast this week, obviously you did a big point about how Draymond really helps Golden State. So I was looking at it and. There's a breakdown of that move, and you can see, like, as he's like, no, he's going to do this and go here, so you got to go there. When he comes here, switch. And literally, Toronto were like, oh, we can't run the thing we want you to. Siakam, here you go. And then he tried to do that spin move thing where there's a joke that Siakam tries a bunch of new moves, but it never works, so he just goes back to the spin move and shoots. There's like a Twitter video
well,
of him doing it constantly, and it didn't work this time either.
Well, no, it didn't work this time either, but that's mainly down to Draymond Green
Also,
being anything
disrespect of
but in the
Draymond.
box score.
The second Siakam took the shot, Draymond put his hands in the air, and I was like, that is toxic. He's like, he's missed. Yes.
I did write down here that there was no Heat and Celtics game because I thought it'd be significant, the fact that it was postponed, and it was like one of the first games to be postponed. But as you find out throughout the later in the week, lots of games got postponed, but they are just postponed. There's some games I've been looking forward to, like this Heat Celtics game I was looking forward to. But you know, they're postponed. They're not gone. They're postponed. It looks like the league just want to power through the season. There's no bubble. There's no talks of a bubble again.
The problem with the powering through thing is like, where are we finding the time in the schedule to get these games back in? Like, it was tough when the Lakers and Clippers missed one game last season, and they found there was a struggle to get that back in the schedule. These men have got the NBA schedule is so like tightly done that when you have to do all these postponements and different teams, so basically someone's got a lot of work to do.
Plus they got the potential play-ins and then the playoffs. So there's that. Okay, so let's move on to Monday. You had Charlotte taking on New York. They beat New York by 109-88. Hayward had 34. LaMelo had 8, 14 and 7. Portland beat Toronto by 1 point, 112-111. CJ scored 30. Dame had 23. Melo had 20. Nurkic had a quad contusion. This would be the first injury of the week for Nurkic, who got injured every other game this week. I think he got injured on... He got injured on Friday with a wrist injury. Here it's a quad contusion, but on Friday it's a wrist injury. CJ hit a game winner. Siakam had 22. Larry had 18 points, 9 rebounds. Siakam missed another game winner. After the day before missing the one against Golden State, he missed another one. Then we had Washington and Phoenix. There was no Russell Westbrook, but Beal scored 34 points to Devin Booker's 33 and ended up winning 128-107. The Milwaukee Bucks absolutely blew out the Orlando Magic 121-99. The Magic scored 17 in the fourth quarter. Bucks scored 35 to Magic 17 in the fourth quarter. Aaron Gordon actually scored a massive poster on Giannis as well, who tried to take a charge, but it just didn't happen. Not happening. Okay, so we move on to Tuesday, and it's this game. Yeah. So you had the LA Lakers absolutely crushing the Houston Rockets 117-100.
Wait. Before you do this.
Are you going to play it? You're going to play it? You're going to ready? You're going to play it?
After intro, not only did they crush them. So I saw this highlight because I didn't watch the game at the time. You know, working all week, it's fine. I was trying to catch up with it. I saw this on the week. Second quarter, LeBron was doing this.
There is an art to that. LeBron James.
They're cutting up now. They're cutting up now. They're having too much fun now. They're cutting.
Kind of night, B. Haywood, that LeBron James and a double and a pump fake before that. Come on, man, that's disrespectful right there. But that's fun too.
So yeah,
it is disrespectful. That is hugely disrespectful. In the second quarter as well.
So not only was that game disrespectful, that game led to a lot of things. So obviously,
wait. Before we see what led to it, Davian, can you tell us the story behind that no look?
So LeBron has come out in the media after the game because people wonder why was he hitting no look threes in the second quarter. This isn't like LeBron. So a reporter asked him the question. So why did you do that? So it turns out that when the ball got thrown to LeBron, Dennis Schroeder from behind him said, "I bet you won't make it." So LeBron was like, "Okay." And in LeBron's mind, he said, "The only two ways you can confirm a bet is you shake a man's hand or you look him in the eye." So he decided to take the three, turn around, look Dennis Schroeder in the eye, say bets as the three was going in, which is why the bench started running along the sideline with him because they couldn't believe they had the disrespect to hit a no-look three. After, not only did he hit the no-look three, he pump faked it so the defender came closer and then took the three.
It wasn't the only interesting post-game conference, wasn't there? We had Harden and John Wall.
So just to round that up, obviously this is the second time that the Lakers have beaten the Rockets in a week. Obviously, as we said. So they had an interview with Harden. They went to ask him like, "What's going wrong? You know, what is the team chemistry okay?" And Harden said, "This team doesn't work. This team is awful. We're going nowhere." He basically said, "You can't paper over the cracks. This team's dreadful." This then led to people being like, "Whoa, that's a bit bits like, why would you say that?" And obviously we know now later on.
Yeah, like John Wall, who said, if this team isn't on the same page, we're not going to win games. We need to be on the same page.
What John Wall said specifically is, he said that in a team, especially a basketball team, we need number 1 and number 15 to all be on the same page. You need to have people who fill out their roles, people who know what they do, and we all work as a team to the same goal. For most teams, that's a championship. We're aiming for the same thing. Not every team can get there, but we're trying to get to the same place. And if one person isn't, trying to pull in the same direction, then the team won't work. And then he also said, "It's only been 9 games. Why are we trying to blow this up?" It wasn't a subtle shot at Harden. It wasn't like a what if. The question was about Harden. That was a direct response to him. Also, DeMarcus Cousins came out and said that, a lot of people felt disrespected about the way Harden was speaking. And
well, I mean, I would be upset if he was talking shit about me and he scored 16 points on 5 from 16 from the field and 1 from 6 from 3-point range. Yeah. I would be upset too. But what did that ultimately lead to? That was Harden's last game as a Houston Rocket.
That was Harden's last game as Houston. So was it Wednesday? Well, no, it would have been Wednesday evening.
Wednesday. It was Wednesday. He ended up getting traded.
So yeah, while we were doing the other podcast,
to the Brooklyn Nets. But we will go in depth on that trade later. Let's just move on then to a Brooklyn game. Brooklyn versus Denver, same day, Tuesday. Brooklyn ended up beating Denver 122-116. Durant had 34, 13 assists, and 1 rebound shy of a triple-double. Nuggets had 3 starters with 20 points, though. Decent.
Wow, yeah.
Then you had, this was my game of the week. Was it? No, this is definitely my game of the day, though. You had Philly versus Miami, and Philly won 137-134. It broke my heart. MVP'd had 45, and Tyler Hero had 34. Simmons first game back, I think. Danny Green had 27 points. Hero was absolutely clutch for the Miami Heat. He was making shots to hit left.
I think it's important to mention that both teams had a very, very, very restricted roster.
Yes, they both did, but I'd like to mention that Philly still had Simmons and
Philly had their stars. Philly had their stars, but then had no bench. Miami literally were without Butler. Who was for that game?
Butler, Bam. I think they still had Dragic. I think they had Dragic.
Maybe? I don't know. I'd have to check that. I don't think. Basically, there were some players.
He were down to the Miami Heat were down to 7 players.
And for them to
Danny Green had 29 points and he scored 9 threes. 9.
Yeah. But
ridiculous.
Isn't that a record threes for him, I think?
I don't know. Let's just move on because it was a loss to the Miami Heat.
What?
Because you got Golden State versus Indiana. Indiana won 104-95. Curry had 20. Wiggins had 22. Miles Turner had 22. The Pacers end the game on a 13-0 run. Decent for them. Yep. Then we move on to Wednesday. Wednesday, as we know, is a game with a... Just to circle back, what you do?
Miami had no Dragic. We had Gabe Vincent starting the point guard. Who actually got 24 points.
He did decently, as far as I remember. He did decent. Yeah, he scored 20, didn't he?
24 points and 3 assists. But yeah, it was decent. But yeah, so there was a lot out. But yeah, on to Wednesday.
You had the Lakers absolutely blowing out OKC 128-99. Lakers got off to a team record 7-0 road start thanks to a LeBron 26-point game.
Yeah,
You had Brooklyn beating New York with Durant's 26. Sorry, you were going to say.
Just nothing really. Just the Lakers are just. You can see
LeBron's having an MVP season. I really don't think anyone else is beating LeBron to the MVP this early in the race.
I just watching the Lakers, like, they beat Rockets twice. They've just been running through teams, but doing it in such a calm, casual way that you don't even like. It's like, oh, the Lakers won, and
yeah, exactly. Brooklyn. So yeah, Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn beat them 116-109 behind Durant's 26. You got Milwaukee beating Detroit 110-101. Giannis's 20th career triple double. He had 22, 10, and 10. Then you had Dallas beating Charlotte 104-93. Porzingis returned to this game. He had 16 points. Luka had a 34, 13 rebound, 9 assists. No one in Charlotte had a good game. Hayward had 16 and LaMelo had 4 points.
Yeah, I don't know what it's about the Ball brothers, but they can blow hot and cold.
Oh yeah, they're the most inconsistent players ever. Then you got the LA Clippers taking on the Pelicans 111-106. Alexander Walker scored 37 points.
Ooh.
Kawhi had 28 and Paul George had 27. Portland beat Sacramento 132-126. Damian had 40. CJ McCollum had 28. 26 from Hield and 29 from Fox. They ended up blowing a massive lead though. And then we move on to Thursday. We got a 104-114 win for the Denver Nuggets behind a Jokic triple-double. Wiseman had a massive poster. That was so good. So now, until this game, fun stat: if Steph Curry scores 20+ points in a win, they win. 30 plus points, they win. If he ever gets less than 20, they lose.
Wow.
Less than 30, less than 20. Yeah, something like that. They lose. Up until this game, when he scored 35 points, he was 5 from 11 from 3, 11 rebounds, but they lost.
Yeah.
Houston beat San Antonio in their first game without James Harden. Chris Wood had 27 points, 15 rebounds, and 3 blocks. And after the game, he called Shaq a casual.
What?
So in the post game, he called Shaq a casual because Shaq didn't know how good he was. He's basically calling him like a casual fan because he doesn't really know anything about.
No, I get that, but I think I don't think there are many people who are like. I think people knew Christian Wood could ball, but this season he's been having on Houston. It's been
now he's got without Harden, he kind of has free reign. I think he's going to have a lot of the pick and rolls with John Wall are going to be key for that.
I think when we look at the trade more, I think that is something I want to go into because they do. The Houston, I don't think Houston lost this. I think.
Oh, by no means did they lose it.
Yeah.
In that game for San Antonio, Keldon Johnson scored 29 points, which is good for him. Indiana also beat Portland 111-87. Nurkic ended again, which is his wrist. Dame and CJ both went 22 points apiece. Brogdon had 25 and Sabonis had 23. They end up getting Karis LeVert in that trade, so we'll see how he fits into this amazing Indiana team.
Once he comes back, he's out indefinitely.
Then we had Philly versus Miami Part 2. This time it was a more defiant victory for Philly, 125-108. Ben Simmons had a triple-double. Shake Milton had 31 off the bench, but Embiid had 9 points.
You didn't need it, I guess.
Apparently. Then we moved to Friday, 112-95. The LA Lakers beat the Pelicans. Lakers went on a 24-3 run in the third to stop a slow start. Zion had 21 and Ingram had 20. You had Milwaukee beating Dallas 112-109. Luka had 28 points, 13 assists and 9 rebounds. Giannis had 31 points. There was a massive clutch duel between Middleton and Luka. 22 points from Tim Hardaway as well, just a little help there.
That was a really good game. I watched that. It
was a great game. Possible future finals. Who knows? LA Clippers versus Sacramento Kings. You got one absolutely blew the Sacramento Kings out, 138-100. Kawhi had 27 points. PG had 26 points. They had 6 players in double digits. But on the opposite side, you had 9 points from Buddy Hield, 14 from De'Aaron Fox. But you got 20 from Martin Bagley. So, there's something to be happy about. Now, the Boston Celtics took on the Orlando Magic. Boston absolutely blew them out, 124-97. But Taco Fall hit a 3 off the glass. Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it.
He hit off the glass. It's the dodgiest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, the bank's open.
He didn't call bank, though. He didn't call bank. You call bank. Right. Anyway, Saturday, last night, you had a 122-114 victory for Brooklyn Nets. This is James Harden's first game as a Brooklyn Net, and he got a 30-point triple-double, may I add. And I think it's the first time anyone's debuted with a 30-point triple-double.
It is the first time that anyone's ever debuted with a 30-point triple-double. Also,
he had 32 points.
Harden against Ross. Step back, Jay. Sweet. James Harden from downtown. Welcome to Brooklyn. Harden handles it. Ball fake. Perimeter. Durant. Bottom. A 3.
Where was this against the Lakers? Head ass.
Huh?
Sorry. Where was this against the Lakers when he was in Houston?
Well, he didn't care. He didn't care.
I know, yeah. But
anyway, in that game, Durant had 42 as well. Just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah, the thing is,
Portland beat Atlanta 1. Go on.
I was watching that game. Yeah, KD is automatic. If there was any worries about his Achilles or him not being the same.
He's just
because every time they got close to the ball to KD, he was like, Slenderman is on it.
Yeah. So Portland beat Atlanta 112-106. CJ went down early in the first quarter. He only played 16 minutes. So Lillard basically took over and got 36 points. Lillard took a clutch charge, a clutch defensive play from Damian Lillard. Never thought I'd see the day. And then Memphis beating Philly 106-104. Now, Embiid didn't play the game, but this was Ja Morant's return after having 3 weeks out. I think because of I can't remember, was it a sprain or a quad contusion? I can't remember. But he came back and scored 17 points. Ben Simmons had a near triple-double. He had 11 points and 9 assists, 16 rebounds. Shake Milton had 28 points and Tobias Harris had 21 points, but they just couldn't get a victory. And that was this week. Yeah, that was this week.
Yep.
So, my team of the week for the East. Now, I'm not going to say Brooklyn. I'm going to say Indiana because I believe they went unbeaten this week. I think either that, but they come out plus in a trade. They took down some competition. They beat Portland. They beat Golden State Warriors. They had a really good week, and they don't have a star player, quote unquote star player. So who's your team of the week?
I mean, mine is Brooklyn purely for the off-field core reasons. I think getting that James Harden trade and the way they're playing. I mean, while it's Harden and Durant playing, then yes, they're my team of the week. Chris, hey, I've said since Harden, I'm doing it for most of the trade.
Since Harden, they're 1-0.
Yes, and that's
team of the week, David, not team of the day.
I don't care. Yeah, and I said for off-court reasons. I'm going with Brooklyn.
I'm still disagreeing with that. For off-court reasons, I'll tell you why later.
Well, we know why you. But now, who's your negative team of the week, Chris?
Oh shit. Before we go on to that, I want to give a shout out to Boston, who are continuing to win without Jason Tatum. I just want to point that out there. They're continuing to win.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to say Miami, but that's because they've. They lost to Detroit last night.
Yeah,
by 20 points. But in all fairness,
have they won this week?
They haven't had all their players, but they've disappointed me.
There's reasons for it, but they've lost to Philly twice. They were mine.
They lost to Detroit.
I thought you were gonna find a different person to find a way out of it.
No. So who's your low?
Mine was Miami. That's why I said it like that.
Yeah. No.
But
there was a team that, I mean, I could mention Lakers as well. I mean, Lakers have been dominant. LA Clippers have been playing like they should. Milwaukee are finally looking like they're easing into.
Now the Clippers are playing the no more load management, and they're really just playing. That Kawhi PG duo is looking better. They are getting 20 points, 25 points consistently. It looks good.
Yes, they are. They are.
I'm making my nomination for my player of the week right now because my player of the week is nah. I just want to.
My player of the week is LeBron.
Do it.
I just want to do that.
Go on, play it.
Oh yes, do it. Oh, he bangs it home. Look at the bench. Oh, the bench.
I tried to do that.
You got to call
the bank
glass.
is open on Sundays.
The bank is open.
But yeah,
it was Saturday. It was Friday, actually. It was Friday night.
Bank's open whenever Taco wants to. But now, I think the Lakers they
it's
look
Taco day every day.
It's Taco right now.
I wish you'd get that on Tuesday.
That would have been great. But the Lakers look great, and they look like there's more steps for them to go. So they look like they can get better. The Clippers look like they can get better. Milwaukee look decent, and then there are a few teams who are just obviously waiting for players to come back from whatever. Obviously, Karis LeVert's out for indefinitely while he's getting some medical examination. He's got a mass, so they've got to sort that out. So, but when he comes back, that's gonna be dangerous. Like
COVID related.
Yeah, it's there's gonna be a lot of. But I think for me, it's amazing how the Lakers have just been like, okay, this is a weird season, whatever's going on, but don't worry, we'll just go win away like consistently. It's fine. It's been fun.
Yeah, so that's been this week. Now, I think is our guest ready?
Sorry, I can see him. Is he nodding?
Is he ready? Is he ready?
Right, boys. How's it going?
Is he ready?
He's here.
Hey, there he is.
What's good?
Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Raza joins the Timeout podcast. How you doing, Dan?
Yeah, I'm doing well, boys. How are you?
Good.
You sound clear. I like it.
Yeah, man. Got a blue snowball mic.
Hi, gang. Yeah.
This is it. This is the one.
Can't. I need to get one. I need to join the crew. I'm currently running on Skull Candy headphones right now, which is.
Right.
Got that retro feel, man.
Flexing on them.
Right. So, for anyone who's watching who doesn't know Dan Raza, we've known him years. We've known him since college. But why don't we let Dan talk about himself? So, what do you do, Dan? And yeah, what's your thoughts on basketball?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I suppose I've been working in sports media for a very long time, since I was about 16. So always just kind of been interested in loads of different sports. Like at the moment, currently, my work is very much on social media content, creating social media content, sending it out to the UK, but also to a world audience. In the past as well, I've worked on production for the news and also just, again, helping out with production of general sports radio shows as well. And I suppose, currently what I do outside of that is a podcast as an Aston Villa fan for a podcast called The Hulkcast. But I suppose with that, it's another thing which has helped me kind of start to follow the Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo and all of that. So I always enjoy kind of drawing the two sort of comparisons between NBA sides and Premier League sides and all of that. But yeah, I suppose generally my thoughts on basketball, it's a great sport. Really enjoy watching it. I really enjoy playing the games. And I'm enjoying watching it grow as in popularity in the UK.
Yeah.
Okay, quick question.
On
2K, who's your team?
In 2K, Bucks. Yeah, it's the Bucks. Just Giannis just dunking on everybody, man. That's it.
Means is I throw the ball to Giannis, and that's it.
It's exactly what I do. It's exactly what I do. And I don't rely on any 3-pointers. I don't score 3-pointers. I just drive.
Dan, have you worked on anything basketball related before with your work in the media?
Yeah, no, as I say, so because I've worked with like world news as well. I think, especially like on overnight shifts and stuff. You know, you want to be getting out bulletins and sort of talking about what's going on during that night. Basketball's been quite popular for that. We've had to as well kind of speak to basketball journalists, get them on world shows. This is the interesting thing when you're talking about world content or like content which is supposed to be international. Basketball's always up there. I suppose basketball has to try and contend with the Premier League to kind of get onto the UK related stuff. But a lot of this is about stories and who's big at the moment. So if LeBron does something, LeBron goes and scores 50 points or whatever, like you can expect him to get mentioned. Yeah. James Harden, you're seeing everything that's going on with him right now. You can expect him to get mentioned. So yeah, I suppose for me, when it comes to basketball related content, it's whatever's relevant in the news at the time, or whatever media broadcasting companies expect to be of interest to the listener or the viewer.
Cool. Well, funny you should mention like the extra viewership going up, because I found out that in the UK, NBA League Pass, which is like the NBA's little like subscription service, in 2019 that went up by like 30%, which makes them the 5th largest market outside of the NBA, outside of the US and China. So with that extra NBA fandom, do you think there'll be even more coverage on NBA or maybe basketball in general?
Yeah, look, we're seeing it already. So we're seeing so many NBA games broadcast in the UK. I suppose the difficult thing for a lot of people is that at the moment, if you don't have access to that, you have to be a basketball fan to get into basketball. I think that's the struggle that they have at the moment, right? So the NBA pass, it will get bought by people who enjoy basketball or already have a team or have somebody to follow. But I think we talked about this before, but we're seeing pre-match and we're seeing post-match analysis being done within the UK from UK production houses, and that's really good to see. But I think as well, the basketball has done a really good job of making itself relevant in the social sphere as well, and because of that, it has been popular on social media. You look at some of the NBA stars that have spoken out in the last year, particularly with Black Lives Matter. I think as people are kind of becoming more familiar with those personalities and becoming more familiar with what some of these players stand for, I think we're kind of seeing more and more people want to tune in, kind of say, yeah, all right, I will watch LeBron play. It's cool to watch LeBron play. It's cool to watch the Lakers. It's cool to watch whatever James Harden is doing. So yeah, I suppose that in recent years the coverage is getting better, and as the demand keeps going up, we're just gonna see that increase, man.
Well, basketball. The difference between basketball and most other sports, like for example, football, which has 11 players on the pitch, and NFL, which is the biggest sport in America itself, has a lot more players on the pitch at all times. Pitch, I don't know what you call it. Field. I think with basketball, because there's a lot less players, it's very easy to kind of latch on to one of them, one superstar, one person. So it's very easy to connect with a LeBron James or a Steph Curry, and with the rise of social media and stuff like that, it makes sense because you're watching videos of these guys every day, and the fact that NBA basketball is pretty much played every day rather than once a week like football is or twice a week like football is. It's very easy to latch on to these players, but not only latch onto them, but you're seeing them almost every day.
Yeah. I think as well that's one of the unique challenges that basketball has actually as well. The fact that they play it every day, because it can be what's the word? slightly scary for somebody to kind of look at that and go, "Oh, how do I even follow this?"
Yeah.
But that's where NBA, that's where the NBA, that's where basketball goes. Right. Well, we have stories, right? We've got these storylines. There's a storyline going on with James Harden. People are following that.
Yeah.
You know, you look at the draft guys like LaMelo Ball, right?
Yeah,
as well.
I think basketball does that well. It does the storylines really well, where you follow things throughout a season. So now we'll be looking at James Harden when he goes back to Houston. We did have LaMelo versus brother. There are certain matchups you end up looking at, like, okay, I need to see that, because the story of the basketball game becomes more than just a game, which is always nice. And I think in basketball, you do have that opportunity where individuals do get to shine out more than other sports. So that's why a player like LeBron James can, hit like corner threes and look away, and that'll be a highlight that everyone sees because you've got that chance. And I think it differs from most of the sports where, because when basketball's on, it's constantly on. You've got like 5 or 6 games every day. Like, teams are playing back to backs. Like, you will see it, and because of that, you will see a team win one game and then get blown out of the next because there's so much going on and the fatigue. So it is, once you get into it and once you can get past the, okay, how do I keep up with everything going on? It's one of those that, you end up like just every day, you're like, okay, something's going on. There's something going on in basketball. I'd have to wait a week. Yeah, there's another match going on. Let's go.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to watch every match, do you? You watch the highlights. But basketball is easy to digest.
I'm covering basketball. I didn't watch all of these games. Like,
what you do is
I didn't watch all these games.
You're like me.
I watched some of it,
and he'll just summarize it for you and give you the key bits so I can know to watch.
I watch highlights of every game. I will watch highlights of every game. I will watch a 2-minute highlights of every game, and every now and again, if I see like a game that I really want to watch, like I have on, like, I don't know, like some Miami, like a Miami versus LA Lakers that I really want to watch, or there's an LA Lakers and Clippers matchup that I see and I want to watch that. I will watch that, or I'll look back on a game. But more often than not, I just watch highlights.
See, that's the thing for me. That's why I don't have one specific team, because I have a lot of teams I enjoy, and so like. I watch Miami versus Philly, and I'm like, I love both of these teams. I just want to see a good game. And then when it's 1-3-7, 1-3-5, I'm like, and it's an overtime game, I'm like, all right, that's great. And there are games that I will make sure I watch. So, there's Lakers Clippers, Heat Celtics, Lakers Celtics, just because I know that, it's those games, they're probably going to be highlights and there's going to be good moments. But there's no way to watch every game. I can't tell you I've probably watched one Magic game this season.
Yeah, no, that's true, and I think as well, like with you probably see with like the NBA Game Pass stuff, you'll see with what's like picked as a TV game. There's always going to be something specific. You're not gonna unless you support one of those teams, you're not gonna want to see, I don't know, the Grizzlies play. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
I think, but basketball's probably the easiest game to watch and support neither team. I think that's the game. Like with football, sometimes you have to care about one of the teams, otherwise you're like, what am I watching for? Because it could be 0-0 for 80 minutes. Basketball, you can watch you can put a game on in the background and just watch it. And you're like, I don't really care about which team wins. I just see something happen. And, it's kind of the game that suits more towards that.
Yeah, it's almost like you can miss minutes, right? As long as you catch what happened at the end of the half. Or, sorry, at the end of the quarter. Like, easy to follow, basically.
Yeah, it's really.
So I want to. So in the UK, we might have the 5th largest NBA league pass, but we do have a league, believe it or not. We do have our own league, but it's nowhere near like the upper echelon of basketball. But there are talks. So the second biggest league in the world is EuroLeague basketball. It's essentially the Champions League of basketball. Where you got teams from like Turkey and Greece and all European countries, Spain, etc. And there have been talks of having a UK kind of based team in there. So from a kind of media perspective, will that exposure to that kind of help grow the kind of fandom in the UK? Because then you got that higher level of competition where people want to watch it. But also, NBA, it's hard to get exposure when your games are on at like 2:00 in the morning. But if you have a better competition in a league in your own country where, you're watching it at not like fairly normal times when you're awake, you know, it might build the fandom and
it's
exposure.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because like I don't think we've ever really seen how a UK franchise type thing works in something like this before. Like the only thing I can compare it to is they did an NFL EuroLeague years ago, but that was like, that was new for everybody. Yeah. For a UK team to kind of go into the EuroLeague, I could see it working. I could see there being eyes on it, but how long would it last? How permanent would it be? I think that's the thing where you have to look at, because for the BBL, for the British Basketball League, from their perspective, it's about investment, isn't it? It's about investing in the talent that's there, investing in the infrastructure, and offering basically pathways for young basketball players, people who are coming through to chase up basketball full time, or look at it as a career, or look at it as something that they can really go forward in. I think like the lack of many British stars doesn't help, but again, that kind of plays into it. But I'd say that we have a strong base here of kids that want to get into basketball. Like London's exactly the kind of city, for example, that basketball would flourish in. We have sellouts. When the NBA comes to the UK, no problem whatsoever selling out. The popularity is there. I think it's about infrastructure, and I don't know, because I kind of have an opinion on it, because I haven't I haven't seen the benefits, and I suppose that the people involved with British basketball would know better. But I think first and foremost, it's invest in the talent, man. Invest in what we've got over here, and I suppose just build on the passion and the popularity that basketball already has from a younger audience base. And let's mention this, because it has to be said. It's a popular sport amongst the ethnic communities in the UK. Yeah. The Black community, Asian community, a lot of kids from the big cities are into it. And I think if the push can come from those communities, and the investment can come from the wider sort of sports funding, UK sports funding, then there's no reason why basketball can't grow.
Yeah, I think when you talk about it like that, I think it is a case, obviously, you need the funding to make sure, these things happen. But basketball is a really popular sport, and I would love to see, some of that funding go into it. Especially in London, like you said, let's push the money into that. And let's see, let's give people the chance to actually train. Like, there are a lot of people I know who have had to go into Europe to play basketball. I've got some friends that play basketball professionally. There's no space for them to do it here, because obviously the talent and the growth level, they end up going into Europe. They're going to EuroLeague or go into different countries, just because those countries take basketball more seriously. And then, obviously, that's tough for a lot of people. Like, a lot of people aren't going to they don't have the facilities to move to Europe at 14, 15, where they really need that time to grow as a basketball player. And that's why you end up having a lot of basketball players who, they just kind of stop playing because of there's no route for me in Britain.
No, there's next to no kind of exposure for it. Like, I don't see a BBL game on Sky Sports.
And the thing is,
I don't, I'd like to see that.
I think they have been on TV. I think they have been on Sky Sports before.
There's been a few, and it's always like Sky Sports 6. It's like the further one down. But I think, honestly, when you look at it, basketball in the UK, it's not something that's pushed in school, really. It's not a big sport that there's not really, especially when you look at America, and obviously they've got the high school games, and, it's a big league, it's a big thing for them. Over here, we don't really have that, and then we don't really have a feeder system or like a team you can look at and say, okay, that's the team you want to get into. And if we maybe had a team in the EuroLeague who then would have a development system, and maybe then players want to get to that, and we can at least pick the best from that. Maybe then look at because the thing is, you really want to inspire the younger people to want to play basketball and get involved, and I think it's a good sport to get involved in, and Do
you know what's funny?
Go on.
Talk about basketball not being coached as well. Bro, we were learning basketball in primary school. We weren't playing basketball. We were playing bench ball. We were learning basketball. The interest is there. The kids, if they could keep on building on that in secondary school, who knows the talent that would be there, man?
I think if you introduce a secondary school, like the same way you do with football, where you play teams, you play other teams, and it's a more serious thing where it's not just, okay, there are 2 kids who can actually play basketball, and we'll just fill the rest of the team with 7 or 8 people who can just pass the ball to those 2 players. Yeah. I feel like suddenly you'd end up having more competition, and I think as kids, if you, especially something like basketball, if you have competition, you feel like you probably work harder. Suddenly you've got, it's taken more seriously, and then, you've got kids who know the game instead of having to leave school and then learn it, and then you're already like 6 years behind everyone else who's been doing it for years.
No, 100%, man. I think that's it. I think it's a case of pushing the sport and just basically having belief in what we've got, having belief in the basketball talents here. I mean, it sort of spiked, I think, after the 2012 Olympics. I think 2022 Commonwealth Games, Birmingham, where us guys are based. I believe we're even going to be doing 3x3 basketball. Yeah, right, like this opportunity there.
If you're going to push, I think the 2022 games is one where you say, okay, let's put a team in and let's just see what happens. Let's if they do anything, let's just show them. Let's just show firstly the world what we can do, and then let's just show people. Let's just show kids in the UK that we can play basketball. Like, it's not an American sport; it's a worldwide sport. Like, yeah. And then when you look at the NBA, there are players everywhere. It's not just America.
I remember the 2012 Olympic Games, and there was like one of the first. It was like the first time that the Great Britain actually had like a team competing in a competition. And I don't think we won any games. I don't even think they were close. But it was really good to see, those British players, playing that game. I felt proud. Our best player was Luol Deng. Who was a phenomenal player for the Chicago Bulls in his heyday. He ended up playing for the Heat at some point, but he wasn't a superstar, but he was a good player, and he was a British player. I think there's a lot of factors that are dependent on each other. So, like, for example, we want exposure to get more fans, but you won't get exposure unless there are more fans.
Yeah.
You want to get a superstar to increase exposure, but you won't get a superstar unless there's fans that will play more and then elevate the competition. You want to elevate the competition, but there's no exposure for it. Someone's got to break this cycle. And I think this Eurobasket, adding a Eurobasket team is the start of that. Because then, you're forcing a team to build, and you're people going over that. Like, they're playing Euro basketball. They're a European basketball team. I'm going to join them, and then that'll kind of hopefully lift up the rest of the British league to that standard. And then, you can start to see this increase. You can start to see this growth.
I think it can't get any worse, so we might as well try it.
I've been in the thick of it. Because I've been playing grassroots basketball for a while, and there is no doubt that this country has a passion for it.
Yeah,
and they have the same kind of worth ethic, the same kind of personality traits as any other basketball player, and anyone that you see on like that. It's just being a. So there's not as many basketball courts as there are football pitches. It's a lot. 9 times out of 10, you probably have to pay for a lot more things to be able to play basketball, which is a predominantly indoor sport. The 3x3 that you mentioned, Dan, is generally played outside, which is where most British people will play basketball, because
you can't really blame anybody who goes on outside as well. It's just rainy.
Exactly, that's the problem. But when I was growing up and I playing basketball, I played in the snow, just taking shots, man. But every other basketball player in Britain probably has a story just like that, where they played through rain, sleet, and snow. But it's not good when you have to play through that. Sometimes you open up the gym. When we're not going through a pandemic.
Yeah, obviously before COVID, but it's an access gap. Like, obviously, you're someone who grew up and you were playing basketball, and obviously you did have to go through that sleet and snow stuff. I think it's an access gap. It's it's hard to find a basketball court. Hard to find the indoor. Whereas obviously we do live in the UK where if you want to play football, it's not hard to find a pitch or hard to find, an arena. I think if it gets more popular and, things start to move, then, you'll start to see it become easier and maybe more indoor basketball gyms will open and more, coaching and that style. And then, suddenly, I feel like if one thing starts and everything follows it, suddenly in 5 to 10 years, you could look back and say, okay, now we are more involved in basketball. Now we all got kids who can go to an indoor gym with proper coaching, proper setup, and, then we can look at, improving the quality. Like we have the quality here. We just need to coach and nurture it.
Yeah, it's a rough situation right now as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a rough situation right now as well, because for it's not just basketball. Like a lot of sports are suffering as well because, without, as you say, huge broadcast deals and huge sponsorship deals, like fans and audience, that's the way to get the ticket prices in. Like there needs to be a big reset. I think after COVID finishes, not even a big reset, at least like a sit down where we kind of think, how do we push our sports in the UK? There's too much talent here. And
I think it's important that we don't. I think it's important that when you look at the broadcasting deals, I think there needs to be a sit down and it needs to be restructured so that not everything goes towards football. Like not everything is that. Like let's have a more widely distributed. Let's look at the basketballs, the hockeys. Let's look at all these sports, and let's see if we can get them more on TV and more exposed. Because
there's a market, and it's a free. There's a market there, and it's untapped.
Yeah, and I think especially in the era of kids growing up with social media. I think it only needs a few things. You only need like a couple things to pop off from social media, and suddenly it's a sport that everyone wants to play or everyone wants to do. And if you've got the access there for them to try it, someone could just say, "I want to try basketball." And next thing you know, they join a club, and next thing you know, they are in the NBA or they are in a Euro League, and suddenly it's just from the ability to do it.
Man, look at the NFL.
Yeah,
like that's an example of a sport which has just gone madly popular, like over the last few years. I don't know where it's come from.
The thing is,
nobody was talking about it. 5 years ago.
I used to watch the Super Bowl, and then that would be it because I just knew that it was Super Bowl. Now, NFL's piqued my interest so much that I'm watching it week by week, and I'm making sure I catch up with teams, and I've got favorite teams, and I'm watching things, and it's like, okay, we just need to do that same level of thing where, we can, boost popularity and make sure that it's a sport that everyone actually looking at. And I think we are moving more towards, like in the American sports, like we are moving more towards NFL and NBA, and even Chris was getting into baseball just because there's like the access is there and we have the internet and it's almost there. We just need to take that next step to make sure younger kids can get into it.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's grassroots, isn't it? It all comes from grassroots, and I think anybody from any sporting background will tell you that. It's all about the grassroots.
It's all about grassroots, and it's always an important thing because that's where you start playing for fun, and that's when you learn things. And obviously, I'm someone who played football since 7 or 8. Like you learn so much as a person outside of the sport too. So in terms of discipline, teamwork, you can get so much from the sports, and I think. Obviously, not everyone's going to be into football, so the more grassroots sports we have, the better it is for a community. And I think that's the hope that we can actually, push more sports. And I'd love to see basketball part of that because it is a fun sport to be a part of, and you can learn things from it as a human. Even if you don't become a pro basketball player, just have that enjoyment of teamwork. Yeah, it's role models, and especially when you look at 2020, and you look at all especially the Black Lives Matter stuff and the way they were standing up. There are a lot of strong individuals who play basketball, and there are a lot of role models and a lot of people you can look up to and positive ethnic influences, which I think we need.
No, totally, man. I think if I was a parent right now, basketball is the kind of sport I'd want my kids to be watching because that I think it's the represent. I know this. I know you get your off-court antics and stuff from certain people, but I think in general, basketball's been leading the way, and I think basketball players as well have been leading away over the last year in a way that. I don't think many people from other sports have been able to. Marcus Rashford in football, obviously, has done a really good job of that kind of thing as well. But, the more that happens, the more eyes you get, the more that people care, the more that there's sympathy. And I suppose, I think it's relevance. It's making themselves relevant. And it's I don't think that it's ever been more relevant to a UK sort of younger audience.
Yeah, I think the thing you look at people like LeBron who they're basically advocating player power. You have people. I think because obviously with the individual talent of basketballers, I think in other sports they are kind of afraid to speak out more because like we got players like in football. You look at like players like Sterling who will be vindicated and dropped out of teams if he speaks too much. In basketball, you really can't afford to drop LeBron James, so LeBron James knows he can say whatever he likes in terms of social. Go on, Chris.
It's not only that, but in the league in general, they're a very player friendly league as opposed to leagues like the MLB or the NFL. Like the NFL, you get injured, you could just get not paid or something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas the NBA, you still get paid, and Adam Silver, who's the commissioner for the NBA right now, he's a players commissioner, and he's very he has a lot of communication with the NBA Players Association, and with these Black Lives Matter things, he's been asking for what do you want, what do you need, which is good for these players. And it's obviously in terms of like a role model for kids, it's really good because these players haven't got a filter on the league are kind of letting them do their own thing. I mean, just whether for good or for bad, you look at Kyrie or you look at LeBron, like
they're letting them be individuals. What
these players have a voice, and they get to speak it.
And also, they obviously, when you look at like the ability to wear whatever they wanted on their own jerseys and kits, that was big.
And
spread their own messages.
Not whatever, but
within a reason. But I'm saying, like, in terms of being able to spread.
Jimmy had a reason for not wearing anything, but he still wasn't given that opportunity.
I think it's the I think Jim Butler's reason was great. Like, but obviously, when you look at other leagues, they pushed it as much as they can. Like, obviously, when you look at the UK, normally the comparison is always going to be football in terms of the big sport, and then you look at things like the booing of like taking a knee and things like that, where when you compare that to basketball and you've got these individual players who can come out and say, like, I think NBA know that their stars are the individuals, so they don't want to do anything that's going to upset them. And Adam Silver's very good at saying, okay, what do you need from me? Okay, we'll try our best to do that. Sometimes it doesn't always come off, but at least he's listening to his players. So then those players, feel empowered, and like LeBron isn't afraid to say anything he feels like, and then you've got other players who, like Jimmy Butler, who said, I'm not going to wear a name because I had a reason, but if they're not going to let me do that, then... but he still got to explain his reasoning for it, and still got to explain that, like, he did say, look, I want to wear this because I feel like if I'm just outside of basketball, I'm just another black man, so therefore I'm not, like, I could be treated the same because no one's going to know me, and that's still get that coverage, and there's no negativity behind it usually. It's usually given that platform to speak and get a longer form message out, whereas, with other sports, you don't always get that. Like, you got the NFL where you were told if you don't follow exactly what they were going to do, that was it for you. Your wages were cut and that was it. So players were afraid to speak out and kind of said nothing. And I think I think when you look at the power of basketball, that ability to, be able to speak out and do whatever you want, you kind of like, okay, well, that's the role model there. Okay, he can say, like, you can say, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to find any way to do it. And I think when you look at younger people, that's what you want. You want people to look at those basketballers and people like that who, like, will stand up for these social issues, stand up for change. And I think the more we can push that, in the UK, in anywhere, the more younger people will having these conversations. And I
was also reading something as well from, like, some of the BBL players. I think it was an interview that Sky Sports did with a Chara recently as well. And I think, also just people in the BBL talking about how, even UK-based players do a lot of work in the community. And, that kind of thing, it needs to be recognized, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah, and I think that, like, if the more they can highlight that and the more we can show that, the better. Especially when they are trying really hard to push things in the community, because it will just boost everyone's community around them, and I think we need that.
Yeah,
I think we can draw the conclusion that basketball is on the up and up in the UK. In the world in general, basketball is, even though they've got declining viewership in the US, worldwide basketball is becoming people's favorite sports. But that extra exposure, even here, it's becoming more predominant.
Those stats of dropping viewership is I think it's we can look at that, but I think we've changed how we've watched stuff. We watch it now. There's less cable, so even though the viewership is down,
it's becoming a more because NBA League Pass.
Yeah, I know.
Why would I watch it on cable?
But we all have Twitter. We all have Twitter. We all watch our stuff and highlights on Twitter.
True.
Exactly. Right. So, I think it's time to talk about the Brooklyn Nets.
I don't want to. I don't want to.
Why not? Why not, David?
Because
So,
you know what? Okay, let's just start with exactly what happened. Let's take the opinions out of it. So
no, hold on. Let's start chronologically. So, Kyrie Irving. All right. Or should we start from the beginning of the season or last season when they acquired Kyrie and KD?
Yeah, if we start from last year's postseason or whatever. So obviously KD left the Warriors.
Yes, to join
KD,
Kyrie.
Obviously was a free agent. He had a choice. KD and Kyrie had the conversation. They wanted to be a duo, and obviously they looked at where they wanted to go. They did look at the Knicks, but then Kyrie was against that and wanted to go to Brooklyn. So KD and Kyrie went together.
The Knicks didn't offer.
They
KD
didn't want to offer the max because he just come off the Achilles injury and was going to be out of the season. But yeah, so then obviously we look at that. So KD and Kyrie, along with, was it DeAndre Jordan?
DeAndre Jordan, yeah.
They all agreed. They all agreed a deal, so they all went to Brooklyn at the same time. That was a big thing. Obviously, KD missed last season, so Kyrie was left with the younger players. And last year,
even then, he didn't play that many games because he ended up getting injured as well.
20 something. He barely played. But last year, and then obviously when he could play, there was other social issues. So he was like, I'm not going to.
Which leads to this year. Now KD is fully healthy.
KD's come back from his Achilles
Kyrie
injury.
is back. They became contenders.
So did they make the playoffs last year?
Yeah. Yes, they did.
Like 8, something like that. And then
they were a first round exit by
they were a first round exit. Okay, yeah. So they made the playoffs without KD and without Kyrie, really, because I don't think he even played. So when we looked at them, we were like, okay, you got KD and Kyrie. KD's top 5 player in the world. Kyrie is someone, one of the best dribblers in the game. Very ball possessive, but he's a great player, meant to be, all-star and higher level. So they were instantly a contender. Then we go over to we kind of started the season. They've been okay.
And all of a sudden, Kyrie Irving has decided to be Kyrie Irving. Now, in the past, he's had the world is flat comments and I'm woke, I'm so woke kind of things. And as of now, he's missed 6 or 7 games straight.
If you think about before then, obviously we were starting the league was about to start again. Kyrie said, "I'm not speaking to any media personalities because you guys twist my words, etc." Blah, blah, blah. So he got fined for that, and that was whatever. But then he came out in the interview. Then he started from the start of the season, he was already being quite aggravating. He was already quite there was already something going on. Like there was a lot of Kyrie was in the news a lot, and it wasn't for basketball reasons. Then obviously he has now missed a week of basketball. In that week, he went to
a birthday party, breaking NBA protocol.
Broke the strict NBA protocols, was seen dancing with his sister without a mask, which, that was fair enough. But then he was also seen on a Zoom call at the same time that the Brooklyn Nets were about to tip off.
A game which, by the way, he wasn't down to play because of COVID-related issues. It was down to personal reasons. And now we've got to the point where he's on his way back because he's just been fined, and he's had to forfeit wages. And he has to forfeit his salary for the couple games. And this man makes about $400K a game, so it's about nearly 3 mil.
3 mil.
He's had to
forfeit. So he's lost about 3. He's had to forfeit about 3 million, which
is a lot of fucking money.
It's quite, I mean, even if you are rich, that's still a lot. And obviously, There's been obviously last week when we were here, we were talking about the possibility of Harden being traded because people thought that it might be Kyrie for Harden because Harden wanted out of the Houston Rockets because Harden didn't believe that the Rockets could beat the Lakers because obviously they had last season where they played small ball against them and the LeBron and AD rolled through them. Then this year they lost to them twice in the same week, and he didn't. Obviously, Harden's waited out since the season, since D'Antoni and everyone left.
Yeah, and he himself has broken protocol and caused contact tracing within Houston Rockets.
For the start of the preseason, Harden didn't show up, refused to train, was seen in strip clubs, was seen with little baby just chilling and didn't care about the code protocols. So Harden's basically said from...
Lil Baby's my favorite rapper.
Harden's basically said from the preseason that he doesn't care about the Houston. Everything he's shown suggested he does not care about Houston and wanted to leave. He was willing to do whatever it took to leave. He no showed training, no showed preseason games. Even when the season games when he was playing, that's why he trended for being out of shape because people were looking at him and saying, like, this guy clearly hasn't done any workout, like he's been on the wings. And obviously, he's now managed to force his way out of Houston to Brooklyn.
With a trade. And I think you've got a graphic, right? A graphic of this trade?
So, because it's confusing.
You can't quite see. You can't quite see it. Can you lift it up a little bit? There's a banner at the bottom. I'll get rid of the banner at the bottom.
It only said second round pick, but yeah, there you go.
So, Dan, stop us if you actually recognize a name.
Wait, what you mean?
Other than James Harden.
Yeah.
Victor Oladipo, probably.
Yeah, of course.
If you can pronounce, I can't even pronounce it, but the third name down on that Rockets list.
Courage. I don't know.
I'm
not even going to try. But basically, so the Nets end up with James Harden.
Wait. I know that one. It's Rodion's Canucks. Thank you. I pronounced that before the thing. it's Rodion's Canucks.
Nice.
I was prepped
so this graphic is wrong because Nets ended up with James Harden and a second round pick. The Rockets end up with Oladipo, Dante Exum, that guy, 4 first round picks and 4 first round pick swaps. Now, how pick swaps work is that you've got 2 teams, and whoever gets the pick swap ends up with the best pick, and then the other team just ends up getting the worst pick. Pacers end up with Karis LeVert, a very good young and up-and-coming player with the Brooklyn Nets, and the second round pick. And the Cavs end up with Jarrett Allen and Tayshaun Prince. Jarrett Allen is an amazing defensive center, very young, up-and-coming. So now the Cleveland Cavaliers can have a starting lineup of Kevin Love at point guard, JaVale McGee at shooting guard, Larry Nance Jr. at small forward, Andre Drummond at power forward, and Jarrett Allen at center. So that's like the complete opposite of small ball. That's
no, tall ball, real tall ball. Right. So James Harden to the Nets. Obviously, usually in a trade, you kind of accept that the winner of the trade is the one who gets the best player. But I'm looking at this, and I think there's 3 winners. I'm not sure what the Cavs are. I think they're just there.
They got
Jarrett Allen.
By the way.
In all fairness,
that was it. I've got the Cavs.
In all fairness, they gave up Exum for maybe some second round picks, and they got 2 players, one of them an up and coming center. So I'm not gonna.
You can throw really well, but I mean, I think like Jarrett Allen's a really, really strong center, and if
you're looking at the Cavs, because they've Sexton and Garland, they've got a good backcourt. Getting someone like that who is young and can grow with them is probably but then obviously they do have McGee, and so I don't really know. I thought they might have moved one of the centers to Brooklyn, but clearly not. It wasn't a.
Tall ball. Now, Karis LeVert is a very Karis LeVert to the Pacers is good because Oladipo didn't really sound like he wanted to stay at Indiana. He was more than happy to play.
No, he wanted the Heat.
Yeah, he wanted the Heat, but you know, in a trade situation, you don't get what you want sometimes.
Yeah. So the thing is, Oladipo still wants the Heat, but
yeah, so does Bradley Beal, from what I've heard. But
yeah,
you know,
you get what you get.
But the Pacers ended up getting Karis LeVert, and that's the steal of the trade for me.
It's a great trade. The Pacers want him so much that he failed the medical because he found a mass. No, they found a mass on his kidney. That's been sorted out. But that was found during his physical. And normally because he's out indefinitely, usually that's the type of thing where you could void the whole trade. But Pacers were like, no, we want Karis LeVert. We want Karis LeVert. Don't worry, we'll get him checked out. He'll be out indefinitely, but when he's ready, he'll be here. I think, honestly, when we look back at the trade and maybe however long, I think Karis LeVert's going to be that steal. Like, they needed that. And with Oladipo moving, it gives them the opportunity to just...
I mean, they don't at the moment. They don't really need him. They're on a roll. Like they've got Sabonis and Malcolm Brogdon, who's been leading the team, and they're fine. Add Karis LeVert to that in next year, they could be contending. They could be contending.
I think this trade's given them that chance, and obviously you look at Houston, and Houston have been able to get a lot back for James Harden in terms of in the future.
I can see them trading Oladipo.
So they can move Oladipo around for different picks. I think...
In fact, all the players that they got, I don't see them keeping.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the thing is... I think this trade has helped it's helped 3 teams. I don't really know why Cleveland... I guess if they could move one of their bigs and, change things, so we'll see. But considering people thought it was going to be Kyrie for Harden, I think... Houston have done the best they can with this trade. Like they had a volatile player. They had to get rid of him one way or another. So
Houston, yeah. For Houston, I think they did really good.
So they had a volatile player.
4 first-round picks and 4 pick swaps. First-round pick swaps.
So that gives them an opportunity to rebuild and set up a team they want to go with. And obviously, they needed that post-Harden.
They have a decent-ish team right now. Decent-ish.
I mean, yeah, it's a team that might make a playoffs. Maybe depends on. It depends on how John Wall and obviously all those pieces come together. I think with John Wall and Boogie,
they're kind of like a blank slate. They don't really have a personality to the team. Like Miami Heat does, or the Bucks do, or the LA Lakers. They're kind of blank.
With everyone leaving and obviously D'Antoni going, and this is pretty much the best refresh they can do. Like you had the Harden era, and now this is going to be a new era. They've got the picks, they've got they've got everything. This is a chance to just start afresh, to maybe define a new culture and a new setup and how they want to go.
As well, when a lot of the times when teams lose their star players, you see this massive crash, don't you? You see this massive crash coming because they can't get anything back for it. I feel like if this is what forces their hand in terms of letting Harden go. Yeah. That's the best. That's the best thing you can get for it. 4 first-round picks, guaranteed. They can rebuild now.
And the thing is, when you look at the team they've got now, Christian Wood is playing
phenomenal
level. John Wall,
and he's still really young.
Yeah, so he's still young. John Wall can have you good games. Currently, they still have Oladipo, who again still can have big games. Combine that with Boogie, and then the other players they have around. It's not going to be a bad season for them, but when you look at it realistically, even if they kept Harden, they still didn't have the squad to beat the Lakers or the Clippers, or even maybe Dallas in the West. So you may as well rebuild now and then try and attack it with a full strength roster with a better culture and with these picks that you've acquired and go again. Now, Chris, what do you think about Brooklyn's trade? Because I know.
Okay, David, this is gonna be a monologue. So, camera on me. I want the full thing. I want the full thing. I want the camera on me.
You need us to go.
I need to go. This is gonna be a monologue.
Fine. Oh my god. Okay.
It's gonna be a monologue. You can talk though if you want. You can talk.
No, we can still talk.
No. James Harden. From breaking protocol to go to strip clubs every day, playing uninspiring basketball with players that don't really like him, showing up looking like he put on 72 pounds in 72 hours, is finally been traded in what looks like an all-in deal by the Brooklyn Nets for let's not downplay it. It's for a championship or bust. So it got me thinking. He's with Kyrie and KD, which makes them probably the most offensively talented trio in NBA history, possibly. So I took a look at the highest producing big threes in NBA history. So I looked at 14 of the top ones. I'll just go over a few. This isn't all of them, but we got things like the 2006 Washington Wizards, 67.3 points a game. 2020 Blazers at 69.8. 2011 Miami Heat, which is 70. 2015 Thunder, the Run TMC Warriors. But at the top of the list, you've got the top three. You got the 2019 Golden State Warriors at 74.8. You got the 2020 Houston Rockets at 75.9. And you got the 1984 Denver Nuggets at 76.7 with Kiki, Do You Love Me, Vandaway. Now, with KD, Kyrie, and James Harden, where do you think they would be on this list? Well, I'll tell you, they'd be at the top, and it's not even close. They'd be at 83 points a game. Now, I know what you're thinking. With Harden joining them, you should probably expect a dip in production once they've started sharing the basketball. But that 83 points a game, that's including Harden's this season points per game of 24, which opposed to his usual 30, makes it sound realistic for those three players to make 83 points a game in terms of points production. But, the list of those 14 doesn't always lead to success. In fact, it rarely does. Out of the 14 on my list, only 6 have made it past the second round. And only one team won a championship, the 2001 LA Lakers. And they were second worst on this list with 68.7 points a game. So let's not look at Let's not look at points per game. Let's not look at that. Let's look at something else. Let's look at usage. So we all know that Kyrie, KD, and James Harden love isolation plays. In fact, James Harden is first and Kyrie is sixth. Do you know what percentage usage they would be together? Well, I can tell you it would be 94.2% usage rating. So let's go back to my list of the highest point production by a big three. So you've got the 1991 Warriors at 72.7 usage. You've got the 2018 Pelicans, which is in the top 14, believe it or not, at 85%. You've got the 2019 Warriors at 85%. You've got the 1984 Denver Nuggets at 82.3%. And you've got the 2020 Houston Rockets at 93.2%. Another team that had James Harden. Now, out of those 5 teams with the highest usage percentage for those 3 players with the highest points production, only one team made it to the conference finals. Only one, let alone the finals. So let's not look at points production or usage rating. Let's be more subjective. Let's just look at big threes. Now, I've made a list. I think you'll find it hard to disagree with me that these are the best 3 big threes in NBA history. You got the late 90s Chicago Bulls. You got the recent Golden State Warriors, KD, Clay, Curry. You got the 80s Lakers. You got the Miami Heat back with LeBron, Bosh, and Wade. You got 80s Celtics. You got the Dynasty Spurs and the 60s Celtics. Now, those are the best big threes in NBA history. I think you'll find it hard to disagree with me there. But what do they have in common? Not much, really, other than, success. And the consistency of that third option. It's not an easy role to take, and in fact, some players aren't welcome to it. Chris Bosh went from a 20-10 player to become an 18-7 player on a good Toronto Raptors team into an amazing Miami Heat team. Robert Parrish, who could have been the best center in the league at the time, took a back seat to Bird and McHale. You got James Worthy, who sat behind Kareem and Magic Johnson to take whatever role he could in a championship winning team. He could have went to some really bad team and become a 30 points per game guy and a superstar, but he didn't. He took that third role, he embraced it, and he won. Klay Thompson got touches in offense with two of the best scorers in NBA history ever. What do they all get for that? Championships, respect, legacy, winning. So my next question is, who's willing to take a back seat? Because one's going to have to. It's proven in NBA history that someone is going to have to be the third option. Well, I'm telling you right now, although he's probably going to be the most willing to do it, it's not going to be KD. He's just too good. 2 championships, 2 finals MVPs. He shouldn't. He just shouldn't. So it comes down to Kyrie and Harden, but they're not going to do it either because their games are built by having the basketball in their hands. As I just showed you, Harden is first in isolation plays. Kyrie is in 6th. They're not going to give up the basketball. They aren't Klay, they aren't Manu Ginobili, and they aren't Chris Bosh. As I say this, there's a phrase that keeps going on in my head, and it's, you can't just throw talent together and expect to win a championship. It's happened too many times. Houston with Clyde Drexler, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Charles Barkley failed. LA Lakers with Kobe, Nash, and Dwight. That didn't last. OKC more recently with Westbrook, PG, and Melo. That didn't happen. Where is it? Where's the rest of it? Okay, cool.
How many pages is it?
This is the last page. The Nets gave up 2 young, rapidly improving players and 4 first-round picks for a player who looked more like the problem more and more with each passing day. And just to prove this, let's look at what the Rockets did to keep Harden happy. They got Dwight, but then he bolted. They then built their system around Harden, and that didn't work out, so they blew it up, got Chris Paul, but then he didn't like Harden, so he bounced too. They brought in Westbrook to rekindle some OKC magic and make a good connection, but they even went into extreme small ball to benefit Harden's analytics, but they scrapped it all and got Wall and Cousins. And you pair that toxicity with Kyrie's earth is flat, third eye, I'm so woke nonsense, and you have one of the least cohesive but most impressive talented duos ever, and KD. Poor KD. The Nets had a bright future with 2 talent stars, and they gave up too much for a player Houston was just glad to see the back of. An offensive talent that's probably not needed. I cannot wait. The Nets went from contenders to a must-win. And I cannot wait to see how they play after Kyrie is done with his spiritual journey. And that's all I have to say about that.
I feel like there should have been like a round of applause and like a woo!
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I mean, yeah. I can't believe yes. Sorry.
David, do you want to refute every single one of those points?
No, because the thing is, for me, so I was saying last week that in terms of the trade, I was like, I don't see. It became a meme when Harden said he wanted to go to Brooklyn. That how do you have 3 players who all need the ball at once? They played last night. I watched the second half. Harden and KD together look decent, but they also don't have the center. They've got one, and that's it. And Harden and KD last night had to play 38. Like they played a lot of minutes. You throw Kyrie in the mix with Harden and KD, and it's like, who has the ball more? Like, I guess you can always say, oh, whoever's the hottest will have the ball, and that's what we'll do. But we know that Harden needs.
What are they going to do defensively?
And the thing is, when you look at these teams, I'm not looking at now. I feel like Brooklyn can go on a 10-15 game run with these three. The question is, what happens in the playoffs when it's more defense, more half-court sets, and we've got more time to plan for you? We know what to do. Because if I'm facing Brooklyn, all I'm going to do is try and kick the ball out of KD's hands and let Harden and Kyrie do what they do best, which is it gets to the playoffs and they, Harden always seems to, he just throws up threes and then, and then with them not having a center and with them, all three of them being bad at defense, I'm looking at teams like Miami. You look at Boston. You look at Philadelphia now with Joel Embiid, who is having a career resurgence and playing actual center ball. I watched Nikola Vucevic run through them yesterday. What's Giannis going to do? Like we spoke about this. Like that, the East is tricky right now. Like.
I mean, they're trying to get out of the East, but when you got to face Giannis, when you got to face Bam, when you got to face, I mean, look what Bam did to Boston Celtics, and Boston Celtics have bodies, have Taco Fall.
So what they've done is they've given up depth for a star. So now you've got 3 stars, 1 center, and unless you make a trade unless you trade someone away or you do something, and if this is your final team, if this is your final team.
What?
You said that you've got 1 center, about 7 guards, and then you've just got to sit there and you've basically got to hope that your 3 superstars, because these are 3 superstars. These are 3 people who top 15, top 20. Like these guys, there's no excuse for them to lose because Kyrie, KD, and the Brooklyn team were meant to be the finalists. You added Harden.
Like I said, they've gone from contenders to must win, and to add that kind of pressure to Kyrie.
The problem is when you look at them on paper and you look at the stats, you'd say they should win because you're looking at it and you're saying KD automatic scorer, Harden.
Just ask the early 2000 New Jersey Nets team.
Exactly.
On paper, don't work.
Exactly. And the problem you've got is the issues with Harden and Kyrie. So KD, he's sensitive, but in terms of on the court, pretty consistent. He's a very tall player with a very big reach who can get his shot off and very hard to defend. So we know what you're getting with KD. He's pretty consistent and he's come back from the Achilles injury as well. But Kyrie, since he's left LeBron, has been, he went to Boston. Just think about it. He went to Boston because he wanted his own team. He went to Boston because he wanted his own team. He then missed that first set of Eastern Conference Finals when they almost beat LeBron's Cavs without him. He came back, basically stole touches from Tatum, Brown, all those younger players who needed the ball. We were playing well without him. There was a chemistry issue. Suddenly they were arguing. He then said in the first game, he said before the last season at Boston, he was going to sign a new deal and he was staying at Boston. Then he was gone. He's gone to Brooklyn. He's played 24 games in a season and a bit. He was meant to be there to help the younger players and, develop them. So when KD came back, it was an instant fit and he hasn't been there because of injuries. He had the social issues. Kyrie as a player, like a lot of people have said that he is the issue within a lot of teams. Like, and then you combine that with James Harden, who, like you said, he's been paired with Westbrook. He was paired with Chris Paul. He would have been paired with John Wall this year if he'd stayed at Houston. Like he's had all these options. The people that they keep picking players that would fit around Harden's mental. Like, that Harden's gonna have a lot of the ball. You just give it to him and let him do what he wants, and that hasn't worked. So now he's going to be fit with Kyrie, who needs the ball a lot, and KD, who probably should have the ball the most.
Do you think that, with a coach like Steve Nash, though, somebody who has been the big guy in the past, and obviously a former MVP, do you think that's the kind of personality that might be able to kind of drill into these guys, though? So the selflessness.
No, the thing is, right. So, I was going to say, for me, in theory, having someone like Steve Nash and, someone who can talk to the players on a player basis, someone who can explain to them, similar to, Golden State where, you got that and you can be like, okay, well, this is what I would have done in this situation, what we need to do. That in theory would help, but when you're looking at these type of players and, you kind of need someone who's got the experience. You kind of need someone who's going to be able to build the, like, I just feel like if they don't set up tactically right, they're going to lose a lot.
Well, So you asked that question about So another big three, for example, was the Miami Heat big three, and you look at their coaching when they started. It was Eric Spoelstra, and he had only been coaching the Miami Heat head coaching for 3 years, but 3 years nonetheless, he was experienced somewhat.
Yeah.
And for a 9-8 start. There were suspicions that there was a LeBron nudge. I remember this, like when I was watching it, and there was suspicions that he was a bad coach. Now we don't know what Steve Nash really is like, but I can't imagine him being, Eric Spoelstra. We know who Eric Spoelstra is now. He's proven, probably because of those years being being LeBron's head coach, because he was LeBron's head coach. Don't get me wrong. But, Kyrie Irving's been, what head coaches has he had that have been prominent? Ty Lue?
I mean,
I like Ty Lue, but, it felt like LeBron's team. And Kyrie had LeBron, LeBron was a guy, and LeBron was kind of like Kyrie's big brother,
be honest,
telling him to shut up.
Yeah, be honest. Ty Lue was to me great coach, but the reality is what got the out of Kyrie
that they needed at the time.
Yeah, Ty Lue I think he's a great coach. Like he was able to set up things tactically well. But let's be real, the reason why Kyrie was able to be so efficient and they were able to play the offense they did is because LeBron said, "Okay, this is the offense we're going to play for you." Like there were moments
you're going to have to trust me.
Yeah, it was and I think. When Kyrie left, he said it's because he wanted to run his own team, and that's partly because LeBron was like, "Okay, this is what we're going to do. This is what's best for you." And Kyrie was like, "No, I'll do different." Obviously, he's had Brad Stevens in Boston, but Kyrie's also said that he doesn't need a head coach because that was his original statement at the start of the season. He said, "We don't need a head coach," in response to having Steve Nash know. And it's like, okay, that's where we realize that you don't know what's going on here because without a head coach, you guys
we realized that then.
No,
we realized
some of the other things he said have been flat. You know what? That's the outside of basketball thing.
Basketball with a bunch of
when
things.
You come out, and obviously there's a lot of things, but when you think, I thought that you can blame the Cleveland stuff on LeBron, on that relationship breaking down. You can blame the Boston stuff on timings and they're bringing in Gordon Hayward and they're being whatever. But this Brooklyn stuff, he said that before they even played it. Really, he was like, we don't need a head coach. What's the point of that? And I was like, please stop speaking. That's why when he said he wasn't speaking to the media, I was like, it's probably the best. I was like, just don't speak. Let KD do it. Like, don't speak. Shut up.
Okay, so Steve Nash is the head coach, but who does he have as an assistant? Mike D'Antoni.
Yeah.
So James Harden has come back to him, and we know what kind of offense Mike D'Antoni runs. It's isolation. Yeah. It's fast-paced offensive basketball. So that in itself isn't going to help. But
this is also the same Mike D'Antoni who literally said, "Defense, my team don't do that."
Yes, he said that.
He said that about last season's Houston. It was a joke, but it was said under real. It was laughing off real criticism. They said, "We don't play defense." They said, "What about your defense?" He's like, "Defense, we don't play that." And I'm looking at that and I'm like, well, okay, so what you've got is a coach who is new, combined with Mike D'Antoni, who's got historically a quicker offense, but laps on defense, combined with 3 stars.
Steve Nash was the head of Mike D'Antoni offense in Phoenix. Yeah. So it's more than likely he's going to implement that kind of thing because that's what he's comfortable with.
And it's overall, you just look at the trade and I'm like, did you really need James Harden?
No. Although, in all fairness, right, I would have traded James Harden for Kyrie Irving. I would have done that. I probably would have tried to get a center. Like right now, I told Dan this earlier that I'd trade Kyrie for like a few players and picks, like Andre Drummond, and maybe another center. Give each of them
no depth
too.
The problem you have here is though that we all know that historically KD has an issue with being sensitive, and I feel like because he's vouched for Kyrie, I feel like there may be a case of because they are friends, and I feel like a reason that Kyrie hasn't been traded or moved is because they know it might upset KD, and that's the thing they want to do. Like they have to be careful with, and obviously with the team chemistry, like they have to be careful. So, and obviously you got Harden tweeting things like, "Oh, well, he was on Instagram yesterday, like, wow, look how scary we're gonna be. We haven't even added Kyrie. Oh no!" But they don't play defense. They haven't played defense this season. I
don't think they will.
Yeah, I know, and they've added someone who doesn't really play defense. Like, I don't
know.
Unless they trade for a center, these playoffs is going to be sticky for them. That's going to be a real.
Also, isn't 2022 like basically just a cliff edge for them? So, like, if they don't end up winning anything, are they not just basically I don't know what could happen to them, basically. They could end up back in the same situation they were in a couple of years ago.
Yeah, pretty much. They lost all their picks, They it's really funny because they could have had Jason Tatum on this team.
Mm-hmm.
They could have.
Yeah, because
But they ended up trading away those picks for an aging Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is,
and then
I was going to say in terms of when it could look like the deal they've made now is we have to win right now, and we looked at when you look at the Clippers from last year, they did the same thing in terms of okay, we've got to win now because obviously free agencies were coming up, and they put themselves in a position where they lost. Look how many picks they lost, and they had to sign Paul George to a new deal because they couldn't afford to let him go. So he's probably being overpaid right now because in reality, Clippers were like, we've gone all out for one player. We put our future on Paul George being the guy that will take us to the championship. So even when it went wrong last year and there was those type of issues, they had to renew him because if they let him go for nothing, they've lost all these picks and there's nothing they can do. And Brooklyn have put themselves in that position where you've given all these picks away and you've given you've traded Caris LeVert, you've traded Jarrett Allen. Like, if this doesn't work, what do you do? And I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's going to work. And I said this about the Clippers last year. I said this about the Clippers last year from early and they had depth. They had depth, and they got last year. The Clippers were 4-2. 2 years ago, the Clippers were 4-2 with the Warriors before they added Kawhi and Paul George, and everyone said, "Okay, well now they've got all that depth, and they've signed 2 great players." And I was like, "Okay, I'm not sure about
the chemistry because they rarely ever play together." But Brooklyn Nets might not have the chemistry, and they might not have the defense.
I know, and then they don't have the defense, and then also you got the fact that you got Kyrie. You got to deal with 3 egos here with a weird. It's for it to work. They'd have to be more defensively sound. They'd have to trade someone to get in at least a good center. Otherwise, you're. The thing is, it comes back to who do you trade, and all signs point to you trade away the problem, which is Kyrie. Yep. So it's either you stick with these 3 and say. You stick with these 3 and say it may not work, but we're just going to go all out for it. Or you trade Kyrie and say, I'm going to build an actual roster. If they trade Kyrie and get a center or, some depth, suddenly it changes how it looks at it because Harden and KD could probably work well together.
Oh, well, they proved that last night, didn't they? Well, I say proved it. They've shown it. They've shown sparks of it.
They showed glimpses. I mean,
I don't know how consistent that's going to be. A 30-point game from James Harden, a 40-point game from KD. I don't know how consistent that's going to be. But
I mean,
double. I don't know how consistent that's going to be.
He got a triple double. Yeah, he debuted with his first player to debut with a 30-point triple double for a new team.
Madness. But I was saying to Chris, he made Jeff Green look good as well.
A reunite in there, but I think. The thing for me is, if they don't trade Kyrie, I don't think they're winning the championship, but I am going to watch those games.
Oh, no, I'm going to watch those games. I'm going to watch
Brooklyn's 3. the way they play, they could lose a game 160, 150. We're going to see all-star game defense. Like, it's going to be run 3. Okay, now you go down there. It's the matter. Kyrie's going to check out about half. Kyrie will check himself out halfway through the game, saying, "I don't need a coach. I'm good."
That being said, I can see them losing a game and hitting 3 from 37 from 3.
Oh,
so
no, there are going to be games where they all hit 40 or 30, and it's going to be like, "Oh my god, it's 100, 170, 150." There's also going to be games where no one scores because they're all off. And then the thing is, the problem with the thing with a good basketball team is it's how you adapt when you're off that shows how good a team you are. Like. And obviously, we saw that a lot with the teams last year.
I don't see how they're going to adapt because defensively they can't do anything.
I know. So a team that I always look at when we talk about adapting is Miami, where Miami have 7 to 8 players who could all drop double-figure points. So if Jimmy Butler's having an off game, he can hit that ball to Tyler Hero, and he's like, "Okay, can you get me some buckets?" Then Duncan Robinson get you some buckets, and then suddenly you got Bam Adebayo can get you buckets as well as Dragic. And you look at players, and that's a whole team of players who can get you buckets. In the Brooklyn, if 1 or 2 of those players aren't getting buckets, they are relying on Jeff Green or DJ.
If DeAndre Jordan isn't scoring 10 points, isn't scoring 10 points a game, let alone whatever he's doing now.
So if they have an off game, what are they going to jump into? Like picking what are they going to do to come out of that other than shoot more, which is hardest thing is if I miss, I'm gonna shoot again. Like that's his thing.
Although the roll with Harden and KD is very exciting. Unreal. They did it a few times yesterday, but it was unreal.
Yeah, if you look at it from a purely analytical, if you're being realistic, you look at them and you say that doesn't work. If you look at it as a fan, you're like, you know what? It's going to be fun. Like, there are going to be exciting moments, exciting games. They could be down by 20 and shooting themselves back into it. They could be up by 20 and lose it by defense. We don't know what's going to happen, but we just know that, there's not going to be a lot of defense.
Nets have massive merchandising potential as well, don't they?
No,
it's so fashionable as a team.
Yeah, honestly, the amount of times I walk around Birmingham and I've seen people with the Brooklyn Nets stuff, and they have they probably don't have any idea what it is. It just looks cool.
the thing is that Brooklyn jersey, that black and white one, the black and white one is something that you could literally just put on and it will match with most of the things you're wearing. So people will pick that up and just not care about it. Yeah, it's a black and white.
That's why Oakland Raiders are like the biggest team in the UK.
Yeah, because that black and white fitted cap goes perfectly with anything. You can just
that's why when I see someone wearing a Milwaukee Bucks Cream City jersey, I know exactly that this guy knows basketball, because who in their right mind would have the words Cream City on them?
Yeah, you have to be a real Bucks fan to even to rock that with no. Yeah, it's. But yeah, I think Brooklyn have the opportunity to be that team that you look at and say, like, okay, if I don't watch basketball, what team am I going to watch? I'll watch one with the 3 All-Stars on it. Like, I'll go watch that team. Like, let's see KD, Harden, Kyrie with the actually really cool jersey, who are based in New York, which is a really good place to, like, basically, I feel sorry for the Knicks a little bit. Because
the Knicks don't have a superstar.
They were trying. They were doing so well.
But the Knicks were like really like, okay, we're gonna get KD. Let's just plan for KD.
And
we heard he's coming to New York.
No, it wasn't just KD, because I thought they were gonna get a top pick and possibly get Zion too.
Zion, they wanted in their minds they had Zion. They could have got Zion, Kyrie, and KD. They end up with.
They ended up with Julius Randle, Bobby Portis, RJ Barrett, who's totally the second bet, definitely the third bet. I was going to be sarcastic, but I didn't even want to do it.
You kind of cancelled it halfway. You're like, definitely the. No, I feel bad.
They've got some good young players, though, aren't they? I mean, I think up until this week they were doing okay, weren't they? I mean, they've got Emmanuel quickly, who's not really getting the games yet.
I think, obviously, there are a lot of teams around the league who they have potential, and I want to see them. And Knicks are one of them that they started well, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of enjoying this. I like watching basketball games where, you don't know who's going to win. Like, there's no less blowouts, and especially with this kind of era of basketball where it's been a shortened preseason, there's been less of a gap you kind of see more fatigue on players because it's been tough. We just see some random games where like the Knicks could beat the Warriors. I'm like, I enjoy this. It makes it more fun, and the Knicks team have a decent team, but obviously compared to what they could have had if they had got that Zion, like everyone was all in for that Zion sweepstakes, and the Knicks really believed, and then they didn't get that, and it's like okay, and then they thought they were getting KD. It was like,
but they fucked up KD. They fucked up.
Obviously, I watch a lot of basketball media stuff, and watching the first takes, and it was great watching all these New York guys come on. Like, no, we're getting Zion. Zion's coming to us, and then it was like, but no, we'll get KD. Don't worry, he's gone to Brooklyn. Oh no, we'll get there's no one available. Don't worry, next year, next draft. But yeah, I don't know. I think with the Brooklyn thing, like they are going to be the most exciting team. They're probably going to be the most like it's going to be the Lakers on the West in terms of merchandise, and then Brooklyn. They're gonna be like the team that everyone kind of jumps on that bandwagon of. So it's gonna make their games even more fun to watch. They're probably gonna get more of a social media blow up because everyone's gonna be watching to see. Because I think you either expect it to work instantly or you expect it to blow up, and because of that, you're gonna watch it. It's like a car crash; you have to watch it no matter what. Like
exactly, and I am excited to watch this car crash, which is something
it's like,
I
can't look away. I'm like, there's Kyrie's ego, Harden's needed the ball, KD's said, oh no, it could all blow up, and I'm saying like, I'm watching it though. Let's see, like,
and that's like watch the game where Kyrie just walks off.
I need Kyrie back. Oh, if Kyrie walks off a game, that's.
Do you know what with Kyrie as well? Like, we don't actually know what's going on, do we?
No,
like, they're handling
at the moment,
like quite politely in the media.
So it's been listed as personal reasons, and then it was listed as personal reasons to begin with, and then it started off, and obviously that's when it came out that he broke the protocols. Then there was talks of him so it's clearly something because when they were asking Steve Nash, he was like, he'll definitely play this season, and everyone went, this season? What? Like what? Like
what?
Like literally, that was the question was like, they were like, is he gonna play this week? And then he was like, he'll play this season, and they were like, whoa. That wasn't a question we asked. And then obviously he's been out for about a week. He's been caught doing different things. There's been some like conversations and like some people said it's his mental state. Some people said that apparently he had a conversation with someone and he was like, and then someone told him that he's the NBA owners own him and that affected his mind state with the stuff in the Capitol, stuff like that. So there's been
the stuff with because he's the vice president of the
MBPA.
Yeah, him, Iguodala, Chris Paul's the president. There's a bunch of others, but he goes behind their backs all the time, and I'd be pissed.
The thing is,
I think the fact that this guy has power. Don't get me wrong, he's a voice, but also you need to think.
The thing with Kyrie is like it goes both ways. Sometimes. So we had this conversation a lot. At the when we were restarting last year, coming into the bubble, and we spoke about it a lot when he was like, "No, I'm just not going to play," and I was like, "Why would you not play?" And he was always like, "No, we're not playing."
I didn't play anyway because he was recovering from surgery.
Then he was like, "I was like, what plan do you have in terms of like if you like?" LeBron was like,
he was quoted saying that you should play.
But that's the thing, he goes back and forth so much because LeBron came out and said, I'm going to play and going to deal with social issues. Kyrie said, I'm not going to play. And the thing is, people looking at him going, well, then what? What are we going to do? And he never has that second point. He knows what, and the thing is, you can tell he cares. You can tell that his heart's actually in the right place. I actually don't mean any ill will on Kyrie when I talk about his ego. No, I think to be a top sports star, sometimes you kind of need that ego. And, Kyrie was the one who, when he was out for the first Cavs Warriors, said, if I wasn't injured, we'd have won. And then people laughed at him. And then when they were 3-1 down, they were still laughing at him. Then he came back, hit the shot over Steph, and they won that championship. Like, he's a great player. And obviously sometimes that ego's needed, but I think he still needs, he's been trying to sometimes it feels like he's trying to surpass LeBron. He's trying to, get out of that shadow. So everything he does, he's trying to do bigger. Sometimes it kind of seems like he has a good idea and then he never really thinks it through or never he could be out for a really important reason or strong reason, but the way he acted, the way he's out is what caused people to look at him and go, something's wrong there. Why are you on social media without a mask? Why are you in Zoom calls when your team's playing? There are other players who would be out for a week and be quiet. Kawhi does it well. If Kawhi was out, you wouldn't hear anything from Kawhi. That'd be it. and then he come back and we just say it was personal reasons and we just move on. But
It's a mentality thing. I think
Kawhi's a robot. So.
Kyrie magnetizes drama around him. And, and the thing is, the media love it because it's headlines. And obviously, the problem is like he hasn't learned or grown up, and he's not young enough for us to say, "Oh, he's just because he's young. He's meant to be in his prime." So that means that, and obviously, I know that this has been a tough year for him with everything going on. Like him and Kobe were like really close, and I know there was a lot of things like on his head, and I know that if he's trying to take that weight on and try and do more, I think he just needs to take a step back and just think. Think about the actions.
There was something that Stephen A went on a rant and said that Kyrie Irving should retire. He said that, and there was the bit at the end where he mentioned Kobe Bryant, and he basically said Kobe was one of your best friends. He was a brother. Do you think Kobe Bryant would do anything like this?
No, and that's the thing. Kobe.
No.
Think about that.
It doesn't matter. Even when he was injured, sometimes he'd play.
And the thing is, okay, I'm not going to advocate players playing when they're injured if they unless it's like it's the finals maybe. But obviously, Kobe's built differently, and that's his thing. But the thing with Kyrie, I think you look at these players. He's been around Kobe. He's been around LeBron. He's currently with KD. Like he's around players who have had the experience, and they clearly care about him. A lot of people respect him, and a lot of people want him to do well. I think he just needs to, maybe even if it's this season, once he comes back, he needs to be all focused on basketball. If I'm Kyrie, I'm doing everything I can to make this big three work. If I have to touch the ball less, fine. If I'm going to start defending more and do more intensity, I'm going to show it on the court, because clearly when I come off the court and say things, I keep messing up. So let the ball let the ball talk, because otherwise, if this fucks up, it's going to look bad on him, because it's going to be him. He's going to be the scapegoat of this, no matter what happens, because people are going to look at it and say, people are going to look at it and say,
if the Nets fail, it's his head.
Fam, they've got Slim Reaper, they've got Mark Henry.
He somehow lost all that weight. Okay,
I think it was just a bad angle.
It's a mixture of a bad angle.
Bro, he was moving around. How many bad angles?
Nah, the thing is, I think I'm convinced I'm wearing something under
he looked like an uncle at a barbecue, bro.
I'm convinced he was wearing something under his shirt. Nah, he needed to be the uncle. He needed slides and a wing and like this. I know they'd be like, "Yo, it's Uncle Harden, Uncle James." But I think it was waterway, and I think clearly once he got traded to Brooklyn, he was like, "All right, let me take off this weighted jacket I've got underneath. They'll never really know the true me. I'm ready," because there's no way unless man had some surgery we don't know about in the last week.
You're probably not familiar with Naruto, but there's a character called Rock Lee, and he fights a character, and they're like, "Oh, he's so impressive," and then he's like, "Oh, I'll take off my training weights," and they're like, training weights, and he drops them, and they're like 2 megaton bombs going off, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?" That was James Harden. He dropped his weights, and now he's gonna go off.
Yeah, I think the thing is, regular season, these guys are going to be electric, And obviously, it's going to be. Obviously, we need to see if they do trade anything. We need to see how Kyrie come back affects it, and we need to see, because if they don't trade anything, oh god, it really is going to be rough for them. It's going to be.
But even in postseason, right? You just need, I don't know, get a couple of blowouts in early. You never know, right?
The thing is, defense wins championships, and it's like.
So
the thing is, and the problem with obviously the playoffs is, it's not like if this is like a football cup game, I'm betting Brooklyn, because I'm saying you're going to score more goals than the other team. But if I've got time to play you once, work out your game plan, and I've got 5 different ways to play you, but you've only got one way to play me, I'm going to bring
in a 7-game series, the Brooklyn Nets can blow you out one game 150-99, but they will lose 4 games.
They can blow you out 150-99. I can beat you 100-99, and it's still 1-1. There's no difference, and that's the thing. So
that's it.
And you're still 1-1, and that's the problem. And then if they end up going through tough defensive games, and suddenly if Brooklyn have to beat let's say they have to beat Philly by 7, and then the next game they've got we've got Milwaukee they'll have time to game plan them, and it's going to be and then they don't want to face Miami because they don't have the defense to stop all of that. Like, there's too much firepower there. If Joel Embiid takes that ball and says, "Yo, come and get it from me, I'm in the middle," with the players they've got, no one's stopping him.
Whoever offense with Joel Embiid will eat
Joel
them
Embiid
up.
and Ben Simmons with that height, and then you've got Danny. I can green it sometimes when I want to, maybe not.
Shake Milton,
and then Seth Curry. Like, suddenly you're looking at that and you're like, like, they're basically the teams in the East are built so well that you're looking at them and going, okay, we've got a lot of great teams, and you are a great big three. Hopefully, if you all play well together.
But we don't know yet. I mean, if they're going to be a great big three, someone's going to have to take a back seat. And I don't see any of them doing it. And then the one person I think could do it shouldn't.
Do it. Yeah, I know. And the thing is, Miami didn't win the first year. Like, it's tough. Big threes aren't easy. There's chemistry issues and like egos and who took the last shot. Like, we all taking the last shot, like together, like team. Like, there's a lot to work on, and in a shortened season, that's probably not what. Like, if I was going to do this, I'd want the summer to work together. I'd want a good preseason. I'd want the full 82 games. And currently, we're doing it in the shortened Corona series, and where these men could be out for a week with like self-isolating if anything happens and whatever.
Yeah.
It's going to be. I mean, it's going to give us content for the whole season, so we're good. It's
the kick a lot of people will need to watch the NBA, because I will say, like, as somebody who's been a bit more casual, I think since Corona started, it's just hard to like follow every single sport all the time. Like this immediately catches my interest. I'm going to be watching Nets games now.
And I think if it's going to catch a casual fan, then I'm like, let's go. Let's just. And the thing is, if the time, especially on Twitter and Instagram, if a timeline catches something, and let's say Brooklyn got by, everyone's going to be like, oh, they're doing something. Let me go watch them. And suddenly it's going to be like, Brooklyn are going to become must see, good or bad. No matter what happens, Chris is going to have another 10-minute rant to go. Like,
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's going to be a long season, but we're going to take it 1 week at a time, and that's exactly what we're going to do here at Timeout Podcast, and what Kyrie hasn't done. So I think we should call it there, but you'll see us again next week. Not with Dan, but I think we'd have Dan on again at some point. I really enjoyed Dan being here. If you got a handle you want to shout out, Dan? You want to shout out your Twitter?
Yeah, you can follow me if you want at Raza Journal. My content's a little bit eclectic at the moment. I'm not gonna lie, but there you go. Really
give Dan a follow if you enjoy talking.
If you enjoy sports, generally check out the whole cast. I actually do enjoy listening to that. That's great.
If you like,
if you want really dodgy memes, then Raza Journal. If you want to see.
Follow TikTok. TikTok's interesting.
Do not follow his TikTok. Do not follow.
Yeah, don't follow my TikTok. Don't follow my TikTok.
It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, it's been great. Like, you know what? It's not the first time I've ever been on air with Davian, which is funny, but it's the first time I've been on air with Chris, which is just great to like.
Hey, this time you're on my show.
Right, I think we're gonna have to call a timeout.
Really? Come out.
Yes.
No. Come out the stream. That was what. Come out.
He's gone.
I took him out the stream. A man said, "Call a timeout." You dumb. I can see you in the bottom. But yeah, it's been fun. He's literally in the bottom of the stream yard with his face on the camera. But yeah, that's been fun. I mean, we'll definitely have you on again if you want to come back on.
Yeah, man. No, definitely. It gives me more of a reason to like actually stay up late as well and watch more of the games live.
Yeah, the thing with Corona is like basketball's one of the sports where I'd have been happy to go watch a game, especially the Sunday evening one, because you can go get food and watch it, and that'd have been chill. But Corona's kind of got everyone locked indoors, so. But yeah, I'll bring you back for the outro. Sorry, come back. Oh my god!
Can't believe you kicked me out of my own fucking podcast.
I got the power. Anyway, I've been Davian.
I've been CJ.
Twitter handles.
See you guys next week.
_ Timeout Podcast. We out. Stop trying to